Now, we've known who the Titans are going to play and whether they will be playing them at home or away for some time now. But, of course, schedule release day is all about in what order they do that. And the Titans are playing a lot of noon games, baby. Get ready to learn noon Central Time, baby, because that is when the Titans
That's
are playing.
The thing I'm happiest about. I'm so happy about that. That works great for me.
Yes, it makes our job easy. We can get into a routine. It's not like every week there's a new set of circumstances we have to adapt to for the show. So from our job standpoint, very fun. For fans, not super fun to only have one primetime game. But listen, you were picking in the top 10. You're 7th overall in the 2024 NFL draft. What were you expecting? The Titans get one primetime game, an away game in week 4 in Miami, which we'll go game by game here in a moment and break down the implications of each of them and kind of look at the schedule from a 10,000-foot view. But beyond that, they're playing at noon every single week, except for in week 10 when they play the Los Angeles Chargers, which is a 3:05 p.m. game, Central Standard Time. Beyond the timing, JT, the number one thing that stands out to me, again, besides not having but one primetime game, is the placement of all of the divisional games. This is a dream, in my opinion, for the Titans. And we've got the schedule pulled up for you, a very fancy graphic that I put together here on the video version of the show. So if you're not watching now, turn your attention to the video portion of the show, and you'll see each of the Titans games. JT, a lot of AFC South there at the bottom. The Titans playing 5 of their 6 divisional games in the final 7 games of the year. So in other words, 5 of their last 7 games against divisional opponents, both of their Jaguars games, both of their Texans games. And the only division game that's outside of that end of the schedule is in week 6 when they host the Colts. That's exactly how you want it, in my opinion. I think it makes for, I was talking to my dad about this earlier, and by the way, I should probably explain where I'm at. I'm in a hotel room in Kentucky. I'm going to the PGA Championship tomorrow, so that's where I'm at. But you know what? We're here doing the show anyways because the grind does not stop. I was talking to my dad about how it stinks if you have a front-loaded schedule with all your divisional games, because if you get off to a slow start or you get some bad breaks and you tank your divisional record in the first 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks of the season, you're screwed. Like, you're going to have to pretty much win out. You can ruin your season, even if your record is not ruined. You can ruin your chances of winning the division early if you have to play all those games early. And the Titans don't have to get to any of them until really starting in week 12.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing, especially looking at, I think you pulled this from last year and kept the London on there, but they're not playing in London this year, so that's a little bit of a
yeah, whoops, I'll take that off later. Yeah.
No. But yes, they only do play one game against an AFC South opponent in the first basically half of the season, which, you know, is nice when it's a little tough for them, I think, because, you know, you would like to have some of those games, I think, earlier in the season.
Why?
Just because when it gets down to it, playing your divisional opponents is a lot harder than anybody else because they know you a lot better.
So you mean just having them more spread out? Is that the argument?
I think having majority of them in the back half is not advantageous, personally.
Well, then we completely disagree. Why? I think that creates for the most drama. I think you want all of the drama to last to the end of the season. I think even if you start, again, they play one of those games in the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. So they're going to get through 11 games and have only played one divisional game. If they are 5 and 6 in those games and in the middle of the pack in the AFC, they still have a very strong chance of winning the division because they've got all of their divisional games left. They can clean up and improve their record. Kind of a multiplier there, because you're not only improving your record, but you're winning divisional games. I think staying in the divisional race as long as possible by not playing them until the end makes for a more entertaining season, top to bottom.
It makes for a more entertaining season, but if you're talking about the Titans' chances outright, playing a divisional game objectively is harder than playing anybody else in the league, in my opinion. And so when you look at that down the stretch, let's say they are 5 and 6, of course, something is not really working if you're getting to that point. And now you have to go up against some of these teams who are going to be touted as some really good teams this season, paired with the fact that they are your divisional opponent. Everything is heightened in those games. I don't know how excited I would be, to maybe get through that gauntlet when in years past you could maybe get away with, grabbing 1 or 2 games on your divisional opponents earlier in the season, and then have some of these other teams down the stretch that make it a little bit easier to continue a winning streak or stay hot. Because of course, as we know, in the NFL, down the stretch, you want to get hot at the right time. I think playing a bunch of divisional games towards the end of the season makes it a little harder to stay hot and get on a winning streak towards the end of the season, especially in those last 3 games. I mean, you look at the Indianapolis Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars, Houston Texans. 2 of those games are away.
I think that's awesome.
It's nice for the entertainment. I'm not disagreeing with you for entertainment value. I'm saying from an objectively competitive standpoint, that's going to be really, really tough if the Titans are looking to go on
a draining.
It is. And it's going to be tough if the Titans want to go on a run late in the season to put 3 games back to back to back against divisional opponents together to make a chance to get to the playoffs.
Okay, I was gonna flame you for that take, but you made a coherent argument. You made a cogent argument there. So I see what you're saying. I'm not sure I totally agree, but I think you've brought us to the point where you have to recognize there's a bit of a double-edged sword, and I see it as with so many put up or shut up nut cutting time games down the stretch here. That's the kind of thing that if it's a trial by fire, like it's forged in the fire of divisional games. If you come out of that alive and get to the postseason, I think you're a team that most of the league is going to be scared of. But I guess to your point, there's a world in which you go through those games, you survive, you punch your ticket to the playoffs, and by the time you're done with it, you're out of gas, you're out of steam. And so yeah, I'll have to noodle on that for a little bit because I think it could go either way, just depending on the attrition you're going through, the guys that you have that you're losing. I'll tell you this much from a rest standpoint, we can kind of transition to this. The Titans have not only is their schedule consistent in terms of time of the game each week, but a very consistent schedule in terms of rest differential. They came out on the positive side much more often than the negative side. My buddy Mike Herndon, God bless him, because I did not want to have to sit and do this before the show. He went through and did the rest differential math on this. The Titans 5 times this year are going to have a rest advantage going into a game. Only once will they be at a rest disadvantage. And for those that aren't sure what we're talking about, that just means if you have more or less days off than your opponent, right? So it's an advantage if you've had more days off and disadvantage if you've had less. And so in week 2 against the Jets, they'll have an advantage because the Jets are coming off Monday Night Football. In week 6 against the Colts, they'll have an advantage because that's coming off Tennessee's bye. So the Titans will be coming off of a full extra week off. Week 7, they'll have an advantage over Buffalo, who will be coming off of Monday Night Football. Week 12, they'll have an advantage over Houston, who's coming off of Monday Night Football. And week 15, they'll have an advantage over Cincinnati, who's coming off of Monday Night Football. The only disadvantage will be in week 18, which kind of comes at an inopportune time because you could see a world in which this game is like the season. But in week 18 against Houston, the Titans will be coming off of the Texans will be coming off of a Saturday game. So they'll have 1 day of extra rest, which is, a little bit neither here nor there. I would say it certainly helps. The whole rest differential thing, I would say probably leans in your favor more often when you aren't playing in primetime yourself, when you're getting a full 7 days of rest between games each week. So I'm sure that part went into it. But JT, overall, not a ton to report on the rest differential front of things. There's only once in the season they're going to have more than an extra day or 1 less day than their opponent. And that's going to be in week 6, their first divisional game against Indianapolis when they're going to be coming off of their bye.
Yeah, I think you can also look at it. There's no teams, I believe, that are coming off of extra rest because of playing a Thursday night game as well. So no Thursday night game for the Titans, which means no short weeks, but also no teams will be coming off that extra rest from playing a
mini bye, right,
a Thursday night game previously. So I think it really shakes out in the favor of the Titans. I think it also, there's a great point that was, I forget who brought it up on Twitter right before this, but I saw it makes for Brian Callahan's first season. It gives them a nice schedule. You're not, unlike last year where there's a Thursday night game and you're going to London and you have all these other different factors.
Right.
Every single week, you feel like, for the most part, is a really nice routine that this team can really get into some nice synergy and keep things kind of the same and get the routine down and find what works for them. And I think that's a huge part of a young new team trying to put everything together when you have this schedule where, the only game is the Monday Night Football game in week 4. After that, it is just, even the bye week after Monday Night Football. So it's, it's a shortened bye, but, by one day, but a bye nonetheless. You're playing these games every single week, with the same kind of rest, which gives your body, I think, the upper hand.
I agree that in that vein, it is an advantage for a new coach of Brian Callahan. Let me tell you what's not great for the coach or for the team. JT, we've mentioned that the two biggest things that jump out, the timing of the games and the divisional opponents being weighted towards the back half. The third thing that stands out to me, and the kind of the elephant in the room here, a week 5 bye should be illegal. That sucks. Last year I think they were week 7 bye, right? Because they played week 6 in London, and they had that.
Correct.
Right. So that felt too early. This feels unbelievably early. They're going to have a bye the first week of October, and then play 13 straight games, and then into the playoffs if they make the playoffs.
Yeah,
that is just there's no sugarcoating it. It's brutal.
It is, and I'll have to. I wonder which teams had the early buys last year and see how it kind of fared. That's something that might be interesting to go and look at. Those teams that have the super early buy, it is really unfortunate, right? You especially like the dream scenario would probably be like right where that November 17th game is, to have a buy around there where you can rest up right
somewhere
before,
in the middle, back middle,
where you can rest up before the gauntlet of playing, what is it, 5 divisional games and a game against an opponent who will probably be in the playoff picture as well. You would like to have that.